on? Thank you very much for being here today. Welcome to the regular meeting of the El Centro City Council for Tuesday, March the 3rd, 2015. I know that there's a lot of interest in a particular item that is not on the agenda today. However, we're going to give everyone the opportunity to speak on the issue that's of interest to all of you here today. What we're planning to do is to go through our regular agenda, which is not very lengthy today, so that should not take a significant amount of time. And then after that, we'll open up for public comment. So everyone that wants to speak will be given an opportunity to speak, okay? Diane, I've been asked to ensure that the speakers outside are working. Are they?
I believe they are.
Properly working? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so let's start the meeting then with roll call, please.
Mayor Silva.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson.
Here.
Councilmember Sanders. Here. Councilmember Cardenas.
Present.
Councilmember Villegas Walker.
Here.
Okay, we'll have the pledge by Councilmember Jackson and the invocation by Councilmember Sanders, please.
Please join me. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The mayor has asked that I provide the invocation. I've selected to utilize a portion of the scripture that was found when the disciples asked Jesus how they should pray. We know it as the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation. Deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sanders. Okay, our next item on the agenda is a report from our city attorney on closed session. Ms. Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On a motion by Councilmember Jackson, second by Councilmember Cardenas, the City Council met in closed session at 11:32 a.m. this morning. All council members were present and the motion carried 5-0. A report was given to council on the anticipated litigation, significant exposure to the agency item. There was a motion by Councilmember Cardenas, second by Councilmember Jackson to give direction to staff, but the motion failed for lack of a second when Councilmember Jackson withdrew his second after discussion of the motion was completed. On a motion by Councilmember Jackson, second by Councilmember Villegas Walker, direction was given to staff to conduct an independent legal evaluation of the duties and authorities of the City Council and the El Centro Regional Medical Center Board of Trustees relating to the transfer agreement. The motion passed with 3 yes votes by Councilmembers Silva, Jackson, and Walker, a no vote by Councilmember Cardenas, and an abstention by Councilmember Sanders. Elizabeth Balfour, General Counsel for El Centro Regional Medical Center, participated in the report. The anticipated litigation agency to initiate item was pulled off the agenda without discussion and will be brought back to the council at a later meeting. Council met with its labor relations negotiators, Ruben Duran, City Manager, and Terry Brownlee, Human Resources Director, concerning labor matters. There is no action to report, but on a motion by Councilmember Jackson, second by Councilmember Cardenas, direction was given to staff, and the motion carried 5-0. Leticia Salcido, Finance Director, participated in the report. At 1:20 p.m. on a motion by Councilmember Villegas Walker, second by Councilmember Jackson, the City Council voted to continue closed session to 5:30 p.m. and the motion carried 5-0. City Council recessed back into closed session at 5:33 p.m. and closed session concluded on a motion by Councilmember Walker, second by Councilmember Cardenas, which carried 3-0 with Mayor Silva and Councilmember Sanders absent. Councilmember Sanders arrived in closed session at 5:36 p.m. Mayor Silva arrived at 5:43 p.m. Closed session concluded at 5:58 PM with further direction to staff, and that, Mr. Mayor, concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Okay, under special scheduled public comments, we have 3 items that were originally scheduled for tonight. 2 of them have been pulled. The Chamber, the El Centro Chamber will provide their report to us at the next meeting. Among the initiatives that I presented to the council at the State of the City address, one of them has to do with our relationship with Mexicali, and the Chamber is very interested in working with the city, so we felt it was appropriate to bring that back at the next meeting, where we're going to have a more complete discussion on those initiatives. So I granted that request. As also, AT&T mobility presentation will be rescheduled for the March 17th council meeting.
With regard to the AT&T issue, I would like to disclose that I did receive a call from their local representative, and I told the representative I felt it was inappropriate for me to individually give comment as to proposed alternative action items that they may be coming to council, and I would expect that to be a holistic discussion that we have collectively, as opposed to individual conversations with council members.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Walker. We do have a presentation by the Small Business Development Center. Mr. Carlos Figari? Oh.
Good evening, Mayor Silva, council members. My name is Sylvia Lavagine, and I am the center manager and business advisor at the Pearl Valley Small Business Development Center. And along with the cities and the counties, we'd also like to present to you the state of the Small Business Development Center.
Thank you.
When we last reported to you, we presented to you our results for the mid-year of 2014, but now we have a year-end report. And so you should have a handout specifying what our results are. But what I'd like to point out is that because our stakeholder, the Small Business Administration, they give us goals to meet. And so I'd like to point out that we exceeded our goals for the year. And the 3 most significant goals that we have are our long-term clients, which are clients that we see for a period of 5 hours or more, and those that we establish a relationship with. We also exceeded our goal of business starts. We had 5 new business starts last year, and one of them being here in El Centro. And capital infusion, this means that we assisted our clients in obtaining loans, or even they came in with their own capital to start their business with. And we helped those clients obtain $2.7 million in financing. Last year, we were awarded a grant in the amount of $100,000 by the Office of Small Business Development Centers to assist businesses and business owners who were affected by the closure of National Beef in the North End. And we have started a program that is an accelerated program for those business owners to get them to retool their businesses, maybe redirect them, and also to help them obtain financing, because we know that there are many businesses in the Imperial Valley that are struggling because of this closure. So we are scheduled to start the classes next Tuesday, a week from today, March the 10th. And we are holding those classes at the San Diego State Brawley campus. And hopefully we'll have a very good turnout. We've already started receiving some registrations. And I'm proud to announce that for the first time in the 52-year history of the SBA Small Business Awards ceremony, we were selected to host that event here in El Centro. And that will happen on Wednesday, May the 6th, 2015 at the Barcelona Event Center. We are expecting anywhere from 250 to 300 attendees. This event is usually held in San Diego, and it's very well attended. They usually get up to maybe 400 attendees at this event, so we're expecting a big crowd. Marcela Piedra has graciously committed to a sponsorship, and along with that sponsorship, there will be a table for 8 attendees, and we hope to see each and every one of you there that afternoon. It's a luncheon, so we'll make it convenient for everyone. We're really excited about that because along with the other recipients, we have 2 business owners that will be recognized for their accomplishments in their business, and those 2 are here in El Centro, so we're very, very excited about that. And along with the other exciting news that I had, this is probably the one that we are most excited about, is we have a new host. And for this program, you know, we're a grant-funded program that is usually managed by a university or an institution of higher learning. San Diego State University, the Imperial Valley campus, has stepped up to the plate, and they are now hosting our center, and we are currently going through the transition. We've just become their employees, so we are going at it step by step, and hopefully, you know, this is, once we complete all the technical aspects of this, we're gonna hit the ground running, and we already are. So, you know, this is something that we are very proud of, because we've worked very, very hard in the last 3 to 4 years to really turn this center around, and I think now we're being rewarded for our accomplishments. And so that we just wanted to give you an update of where we are and where we're going, and hopefully we will have many more things to report to you mid-year.
Thank you, Sylvia. So does that mean that the SPDC office will be relocated to Calexico?
No,
or you're staying where
no,
you are?
we're staying in El Centro at our office here located on West Main Street. It's very important that we remain in the hub of the Imperial Valley, because we do serve the entire Imperial Valley.
Some of the economic indicators are telling us that the economy is recovering and we're beginning to do better, more startups, more business activity. Are you seeing that from your perspective in terms of people interested in business or expansions?
Yes, we are. As a matter of fact, we're seeing a little bit more in expansions. We are currently working with 3 clients that I can think of off the top of my head, and we're ready to take them to meet the bankers to obtain financing to expand their businesses. And also, you know, one of them is actually a new purchase of a new building to relocate his long-standing business.
Thank you. Any additional questions from the council? Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are approved by one motion. Council members or members of the public may pull consent items to be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor. Has any desire from the council to pull agenda items?
No.
Members of the public? If not, I will request a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted, please. It's been moved by Jackson, second by Walker. Please ballot.
Did it register my vote?
Yes, it did.
Okay, thank you.
Item passes 5-0. Item number 7 is unfinished business, adopting a resolution of the City Council of the City of El Centro rejecting all bids and authorizing the re-advertisement of bids for the Adams Avenue Improvement Project, presentation by Terry Hagan. This is an item that was presented to us at the last council meeting, and the council had some questions as it relates to options that the council would have. And where is Mr. Hagan? Oh, Abraham.
In on this one. Good evening, honorable mayor and council members. As you recall, in the last meeting, there was question on the process that led to the advertising of Adams Avenue and our recommendation to rebid the project. Discussion occurred on whether the lack of inclusion of updated prevailing wages was a material reason to reject the bids, and council inquired if the bidding formality could be waived. Based on the 10-day prevailing wage posting requirement, council could potentially waive this informality. However, upon a second review of the documents and the bid protest, the bid protest actually claimed that city staff requested revised bid proposals after bid opening. If true, staff agrees that would be a violation of the public contract code. The letter in question that was prepared by staff did not request revised prices. However, the language in the letter could unfortunately be interpreted to suggest that. Based on this is why we are now requesting the bids to be rejected and re-advertised, as we believe that the bid protest could hold merit.
Okay. Okay, so protest claimed that city staff requested revised bid proposals after bid opening. If true, staff agrees with this, this will be a violation of the public contract code. The letter in question prepared by staff did not request revised prices. However, the language in the letter could be unfortunately to be interpreted to suggest that.
The language in the letter was unambiguous. It was a little confusing, and it could have been interpreted in that way, misread, or a reasonable interpretation of the letter that was submitted to contractors after bid opening could imply this. As just to be safe, and the bid protest could hold merit, and we have received bid protests, so that's why we're requesting a reject and rebid.
Okay. Ms. Becker, do you concur with the recommendation?
Yes, I think it's the prudent way to go because of both of the bid protests were based not on the fact that we needed to, that we missed the 10 days, that we didn't give the updates within the 10-day window of bid opening. It's clear from review of the Code of Federal Regulations that we can fix that particular issue. However, that's not what the basis of the bid protest would be. The basis of the bid protest would be that the city requested a change in whether or not they were going to be changing the price of their bid now that we've given them the current prevailing wage rates. And based on the way the letter was drafted, it could reasonably be interpreted to say that we were in fact soliciting higher, lower bids after the bids were open. And so I think the prudent thing to do is to just reject and go back out.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the council?
You know, it puts the council in a very difficult position. I truly believe that Granite Construction, who was awarded the contract, or was the lowest bidder, deserves this bid. And you know, I do take in consideration what legal counsel is saying, but at the end of the day, again, it's a very difficult position to put the council in, and I'm under the impression and would support that this bid be given to Granite, and that's my position.
Okay. Mr. Jackson?
Abraham, when you, in the language of the letter that says that it was requested for revised prices, did anybody submit revised prices?
No.
So then the prices that we're seeing are reflective of the initial prices that were submitted in the initial closed and sealed proposals.
Correct. The letter did not say submit a revised price, but
So,
They're not.
so I guess, excuse me, I guess my question then is that how does that, I could see if we asked for revised bids and then we got revised bids, or maybe one company submitted a revised bid, the other two didn't. But in this case, whether or not it was interpreted or not, and it seems that your contention is that it could have been, nobody did, and in that case, it didn't change anything. Am I getting this correctly?
the price didn't change. There's no revision that was provided by the contractors. However, their protests clearly state that it sounded like this, and because you asked, then that's the violation of the public contract code. Not the fact that they turned a price in, but their interpretation that we asked.
But if we ask something and nobody complies with that, nobody, in that time period, nobody says that that's how they interpret it. Now, maybe after the fact, that's how they're saying they interpret it. It didn't change the results. Is that fair to say?
Fair.
So if it didn't change the results, then what's the basis of their protest? I could see if, like I said, one person did and the other two didn't, then I could see where the protest would say, well, you asked for it, I've got, one company did, the other two didn't, it's an unfair practice, on and on and on. In this case, none of the three submitted any alterations to their original bid. The original bid is what we're looking at, and the low bid is granted. Okay.
Well, and I think it's important to note that the two people that would be the unsuccessful bidders are the ones that are threatening us with the bid protest, correct? And to see your letter here, Mr. Campos, it simply asks, please respond to the letter as to whether or not it would have any impact on your bid, right?
Correct.
And they came back, one of them saying, they really didn't address the specific issue raised in your letter. Rather, they came back and said, hey, we think that that's an opportunity for us to challenge the bid award.
Yeah.
I think that that's very different.
Yeah, I could see how that becomes problematic. Ms. Sanders?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak to this issue. As I look at the issue, there's another underlying factor to consider, and that is this is federal funding.
Correct.
Federal funding might have some nuances that would not necessarily allow us to take the particular steps other than to go back out to bid.
Correct.
And that would be a concern. We have the potential of losing those federal dollars.
Not if we go back to bid. I mean,
No,
there's
if
enough
we
time.
do not. If we do not go back to bid. And at that point in time, the particular project is $543. The city will be reimbursed, I'm sorry, the project is $643,000. The city would be reimbursed $570,000. So I'm concerned that if we chose not to go back out to bid, those dollars would be lost. What I don't know, and I would hope that you would be able to respond to, Mr. Campos, would there be any penalty associated with the loss of those dollars if we chose to just award this to Granite?
The projects, once they are awarded by Caltrans and Imperial County Transportation Commission, do stay with us. It's obviously, if we do not use them, we could get into an inactive list and
Okay.
risk potential future
All right.
grants.
So, Mr. Mayor, that would be my concern, the jeopardy that we might place ourselves in as a result of deviating from what
Well,
that standard is.
that's the problem. The equity issue says it should be awarded to Granite, but if we put then at risk, at jeopardy, the funding,
The funding then becomes.
and this gets dragged out, and if we are found to be in conflict with the public contract code, then it goes away.
Right.
That's the problem.
Although, to me, it seems that we have a strong leg to stand on as far as defending that challenge.
You want to take that risk?
I don't know.
I do not.
Chris, do you feel that we, because of the fact that, in essence, it was asked but not really answered, nobody responded to us resubmit, that, or it wasn't, I mean, even our staff is saying it could be construed that way. So obviously, it's not clear, black and white. Do we have the ability to defend that claim that, or the protest from the two other companies?
Well, the public contract code is very clear that you cannot solicit a different bid after the bid opening. That's black and white. And the way that this letter is written, it could reasonably be argued that we were soliciting a different price after the bid opening.
And I guess my question is in lieu of the fact that nobody did submit a different price, does that void the fact that it was even construed or could be construed that there was an ask to submit a price?
I don't believe so, because I think the violation occurs when the public agency makes the request. So even though nobody responded to the request, if it was interpreted that this was a request for a different bid price after bid opening, then that would put us at risk.
What is the time frame, Abraham, if we go back out to bid?
There's a revised schedule that basically delays the project 2 weeks from the last time. If we award, well, if we award, we would be starting construction in about a month. If reject and rebid, we'd be starting construction in May.
May, so we'll lose
About 2
probably
months, a month or two, the bidding period.
month and a half, 2 months.
Correct.
So I wonder if it's prudent to ask council to do some more research on that specific.
No, because we asked them to do research last time, and unfortunately, what happened is we found out that that no harm, no foul with regard to the updating of the prevailing wage.
Then we have
But
to
now
write it.
we've just kind of stepped it in a second time with the letter and creating this ambiguity with regard to the public contract code. So I think we have no choice. From an equity standpoint, I think it's unfortunate. And I think that this is a lesson learned in terms of how we need to craft those letters. But I don't think we jeopardize
To
the
this
funding.
Sanders' point, I mean, would federal funding be in jeopardy if, and I'm not convinced yet, and I want to know for sure, but is federal funding in jeopardy if we don't rebid this?
There's a potential. I mean, this is a compilation of the 10-day and then this letter now. I tried to get something in writing from Caltrans, and they wouldn't commit to something in writing. So it's just one of those that we go at it, and if it gets audited and they decide you didn't do the right thing, the funding would be pulled.
When did you attempt to do that, Mr. Campos?
Right at, about a week after bid opening.
Okay.
I think it's very unfortunate, the circumstances that we find ourselves in, but I think the risk of the state or the feds voiding this contract and the penalties for entering into a that does not meet all the provisions of public contract law are too big to take. So I would be in concurrence of rebidding. But this is not a public hearing, but before we entertain a motion, is there any member of the public that wishes to speak to us about this item? I know last time there was a representative from Granite that was here, and I don't see anybody, so thanks. Any additional discussion from the council, or somebody ready to make a motion on this matter?
Move staff's recommendation to reject all bids.
Second.
So,
I know
moved
we
by
have
Walker, second by,
Sanders.
it doesn't show up on my screen
Well,
yet.
it's- Does it now?
Okay. Please ballot.
That's too
Mine is, mine has not.
Okay. Motion passes 3-2 with Cardenas and Jackson voting no. Let's move on to action item number 8, public hearing regarding the proposed issuance of 2 series of revenue bonds by the El Centro Finance Authority to assist in financing and refinancing of certain public capital improvements for the benefit of the El Centro Regional Medical Center. Presentation by Mr. Alex Wells, Chief Financial Officer for the El Centro Regional Medical Center. And
And-
Mr. Wells is up there.
coming, and before Mr. Wells, as he's making his way forward, I'm going to announce that I will be recusing myself from this item. I have purposely recused myself from the get-go because of my employer, Rabobank. Even though this would have no monetary effect, I still think that the appearance would be best that I step away from this particular item, so I will be recusing myself.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Mr. Wells.
Good evening, Mayor Silva and council. As you know, the hospital has a requirement to meet California Seismic Safety Code for all of our acute care buildings. This is a journey the hospital started back in the early 2000s. Phase 1 of the building project was the new ER, the current tower that houses the medical surgical unit, the ICU, as well as the surgical center at the hospital. The hospital issued 2001 Cal mortgage bonds for that project. What we are asking the council today is to move into phase 2 of that strategic plan, which would issue $50 million worth of bonds, $25 million of which is to refund or refinance the remaining balance on those 2001 issue, and then issue an additional $25 million that would allow the hospital to upgrade the central utility plant, replace the Medical Plaza building that we lost in the 2010 Easter earthquake, and move us forward in meeting the next phase of our seismic requirements. The hospital has until 2020 to become seismically compliant, so this is only phase 2. There will be a phase 3 that we anticipate coming to the council in the next 2 to 3 years so that we can meet those timelines. With that, I'll open it up for any questions.
And do you want to expand a little bit, Alex, on the issue of the 2020 deadline? That's the deadline that we currently have to complete the renovation, correct? It's not to get started, but we have to be done.
That is correct.
By the year 2020.
We currently are operating under Senate Bill 306, SB 306, which we received that exemption due to the fact that we are a city-owned hospital. And that requires us to have all of our seismic compliance met by January 1 of 2020. Currently, we have several ancillary services that are required to operate a hospital, and those being pharmacy, sterile processing for surgical center services, materials management, and our dietary department. These are all in the older part of the hospital that is, I believe, a 1953 building and does not meet seismic requirements. So if we were to do nothing, the hospital come 2020 would lose its license to operate as an acute care center.
And even though we're 5 years away, the time frame to get this accomplished is really tight.
Absolutely. To give you an idea, it takes approximately a year to get through an architectural design phase. That then has to go to the Office of State Health Planning and Development, OSHPD, which it spends anywhere from 12 to 16 months in plan check. There's a lot of back and forth, a lot of changes that need to be made, and then you can start construction phase. So we are racing against the clock to get this done, but we're already in the design phase, design and architectural phase of the next building project. So we're kind of getting ahead of the game there.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Any comments from council? Questions?
Yeah, Mr. Wells, I know I appreciate, all the information. I know things are pretty tough in terms of timeline, but it's my understanding there's 2 current vacancies on the Board of Trustees. Is that correct?
I heard that. It hasn't been formally announced to us, but that's my understanding. We did have 2 board members that expressed their desire to resign at our meeting last week.
So in terms of executing any type of contracts, having 5 of the 7 folks on the board, what impact do you see, if any, in regards to making decisions in terms of bid awards or whatnot? Do you foresee that as being a problem?
I don't see that as a problem. At a special board meeting on, I believe, February 16th, our board passed this bond issue on a 7-0 vote. Mm-hmm. So the fact that we only have 5, I think our board is firmly and squarely behind this. They have been updated constantly for several months on both what the financial projections are, what the debt service requirements are on this, what this means to the hospital, and they are firmly behind.
Do you believe that the nomination or the appointment of 2 new trustees, you think it'd be appropriate for them how quickly could you bring them up to speed on these issues?
I think we could bring them up to speed relatively quickly. Again, we look at this as a necessity to keep the hospital operating past 2020. Again, this bond issue really is laying the groundwork, if you will, for what will be Phase 3, which is a new tower that will build new beds, essentially, to replace the ones that we will lose in the older parts of the building. The central utility plant, which supplies all the cooling and heating and electrical for the building, is what needs to be done prior to any new structures going up. So I think with the appointment of 2 members, we would have some time to get them up to speed and let them know what we're doing.
But the fact of the matter is, this matter was approved by the hospital board on a 7-0 vote. So all the necessary approvals from the board have been provided.
That's
It's coming
correct.
to the city council now as the finance authority. And the fact that we have 2 resignation post the vote on this matter, I don't think has an impact on what we're trying to do today.
Mr. Mayor, can I comment to that?
Sure, of course.
Again, I am opposed moving forward with the bond financing until the positions are filled. I don't think it's appropriate to move forward. That board is designed to have 7 members on there, and I believe that there's a reason for that. I know that the timeline is tight. I don't think it'd be a major impact to wait, until we get some appointments and afford them the opportunities to be brought up appropriately to speed on a decision that involves $50 million. So I would be opposed to moving forward with this resolution until those positions are filled.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. Any additional comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I may, you have so appropriately acknowledged that this has been a process that has been going on for some time. And if I'm not mistaken, the mayor and the previous mayor, Ms. Walker, were engaged in some dialogue with our state senator, Mr. Hueso, to see whether or not we can get an extension on this. Unfortunately, we're not successful to get an extension for this 2020 timeline. Excuse me. I have allergies, and the wind did not help. So excuse me, please. The timeline and the assistance that we hoped we would get did not materialize. But in keeping with trying to provide a facility that would meet the needs and at the same time make that occur with its tight timeline, Mr. Mayor, I believe it's important. Now, if there's some additional questions that might be answered or some opportunity for individuals to pose questions regarding the bonding and how we will service those debts, I think bond counsel, Mr. Hunt, is available, and so maybe that would help flesh out some things that may bring some kind of initial concerns to others.
Yeah, that's an excellent suggestion, Ms. Sanders.
If
Mr.
I may, with all due respect to Councilman Cardenas, I think that any further delays on this would be a mistake. For Mr. Nelson, Roy Nelson, who's been our financial advisor on this for more than 5 years, I believe, this has been a journey for he and I. This is our 3rd attempt at bringing this to the City Council. As an unrated hospital, which means we do not have a bond rating, what you have in front of you is an exceptional deal. The 2 lenders are proposing that they would take these bonds on as private placement bonds, which essentially means they don't get marketed and therefore don't need a rating. If we were to delay this, there's no guarantee that the 2 lenders would stick around. They may find a better deal. They may stick with us. I think in consideration of the tight timeline that we do have, and because we have had full support and unanimous voice from our board on this throughout this process, I think that delaying it simply because we've had 2 board members resign would be could potentially have a catastrophic impact on our overall strategic plan.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wells. Mr. Hunt, did you want to add anything?
Good evening, Don Hunt with Norton Rose Fulbright. As has been explained, we have been working on this for quite some time. The documents have been reviewed, and everybody on the banking side, as well as on the city side, has approved of the documentation, and the market is good. But there is a fear that interest rates are going to go up. The question is not whether they go up, but when. And right now, you have a very good interest rate on these bonds. But it is obviously the city's decision. The payments on the bonds come solely from hospital revenues. The city is not on the hook from its money, from the general fund or any other special fund, other than hospital revenues.
Right.
So,
Thank you. Any additional questions?
You know,
Mr. Cardenas?
again, I didn't want to seem, Mr. Wells, that I don't appreciate your hard work, and I just find it unusual that 2 trustees have resigned, and that, and then I think if we waited for a couple weeks to find them and appoint them, I don't think interest rates would be that much affected if we waited 2 weeks, 14 days to bring this back to council and have a full board of trustees to execute these decisions as it's required.
Mr. Cardenas, I don't believe that we'll have 2 new appointments to the board, to the hospital board. There's a process that we have to undertake. The first step towards that process is the acceptance of the letters of resignation by the 2 people that have resigned, and we haven't done that. Those letters came too late to be added to this agenda, so that'll be the first step. And then there's a noticing timeline that also has to take place. Being such a critical appointment, a critical board, I normally like to interview people, and so the timing is not one that will get resolved in the next 2 weeks. I can assure you of that. Any additional, before I open the public hearing, any additional comments from the council?
All that. I don't necessarily have a problem moving forward. I think we have some excellent individuals that have put their time and energy into bringing this forth to the council. I might feel differently if the full board of trustees was splintered one way or the other, and the resulting of the resignations could affect that. But seeing how the conversation is all 7 board members at the time when they voted were in agreement to move forward, I don't feel that the 2 resignations would hinder this process, and I would be supporting this motion.
Okay, this is a, thank you, Mr. Wells, Mr. Hunt. This is a public hearing. Any member of the public that wishes to provide testimony, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Chris Nunn, and I hope I'll be able to speak again later on when it comes to the other issues at hand. But I want to point out that I find it incredibly ironic that this board, the last time you convened, said that you have no choice over what decision the Board of Trustees makes, and yet here tonight, they're before you asking for $50 million that the city has to underwrite. And I want to caution this board before they make this decision to accept this bond. I don't care how great the interest rate is. Are you prepared for the 30% of people that use this hospital that have private insurance to boycott this hospital because the hospital has agreed to this transfer agreement with Planned Parenthood? Now,
Please.
so again, I find there to be great irony in the fact that on the one hand, you say that you have no options, that you can't intervene on the behalf of the transfer agreement, but you say yourself that you are the financial authority when it comes to the hospital. And so before you make this vote, the bottom line is, I don't care how much the hospital makes. If they can't pay this bill, the city is going to be on the hook for this, and we all will suffer. And if this transfer agreement remains in place, there will be action taken by this public that will affect the financial solvency of this hospital.
Thank you, Mr. Nunn. Any other comments from the public? Okay. Mr. Gibbs?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, as you know, I'm counsel for the Imperial Valley Coalition for Life, and the transfer agreement is of paramount concern And we are going to be representing in public comment that we believe it was an absolutely illegal meeting conducted by this city's attorney in violation of the Brown Act. And we believe that we are watching what the Brown Act clearly intended not to let happen. And so while I do not want to jump to the transfer agreement, I would strongly urge the council not to authorize $50 million of city money until that issue is addressed. So I'd ask this board to please delay this decision until you've heard from the full public. There's 3,000 to 4,000 people outside that expect this board to exercise very careful fiduciary duties. And we are shocked at what happened at the meeting. The resignations were done in protest because many illegal actions at the direction of this city's attorney were done. And so we are asking, please do not do something that could financially bankrupt the city until you hear on this issue regarding the transfer agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbs.
Good evening. I remember the earthquake, 2010. I don't know if any of you got to tour the hospital after it happened. They were bagging and carrying down stairs babies because it was not retrofitted for an earthquake. These are things that you need for public safety. These are things you need for your community. We are the poorest county, but we have some of the best doctors and physicians in Imperial County. I would urge that you do support this, because it could be one of these people in this room next that goes through a window when the next earthquake hits.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, any additional comments from the public? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to council.
Well, I understand the passion in the room and including outside on the issue that we'll be discussing later. I see these as two separate issues. We have a hospital that needs these bonds to continue. We have to do the retrofitting, otherwise we lose our license in the hospital. The comment that Mr. Wells made is that the city, yes, does have the authority to approve these bonds, but if for whatever reason the hospital goes bankrupt, there is no, and I need Mr. Wells or Mr. Hunt to confirm this, there is no financial burden on the city. This is a standalone bond issue that is fully funded by revenues of the hospital. Is that correct?
That is correct, and it does not encumber any real property of the city either.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wells.
Yeah.
And I just want to note, Mr. Mayor, that my position is not to allow for the refinancing. I'm just merely asking that that those two vacancies be filled prior to us moving forward. That is my position. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. And I concur with Councilmember Jackson. I think that the two issues are different. I do know very clearly the urgency of this, and there's we don't have the affordability of time and not meeting the 2020 deadline that's upon us. If we do not do this, we jeopardize our hospital services altogether. And I do agree and see this as a different issue. So I will be supporting a motion if a motion occurs to get this through.
It's our lives, yeah.
So, is there, Ms. Anderson, any questions, or is somebody ready for a motion? Shh, please, please, please.
The mayor has asked for decorum, and we appreciate the comments. We appreciate the applause for the issues that are important to so many of you. We appreciate your coming forward and stating your views. But we have an opportunity here to say, under this circumstances, we want to be respectful of your views. We hope you would be respectful of ours. I think this is an important venue for us. I think the financing authority that the city holds is the one area where we do have some significant and very valuable rules and regulations that would allow the hospital to go forward in order for us to serve the community. I was saddened, I must say, to hear someone say they would boycott the hospital and not attend, but that's a personal choice. I was saddened as well to hear someone said they would challenge whether or not we violated the Brown Act, but that's First Amendment right. So in that context, Mr. Mayor, I am ready to move for approval of resolution. I'm sorry.
I think you're too late, Ms. Sanders. We already have a motion on the
Already have a
floor.
motion, then I will be doing a second.
Motion by Jackson, second by Sanders. Please ballot.
Oh, I don't even see that. Is it up yet?
Yeah, should be.
Okay.
No, you need a vote.
Well,
Motion passes 3-1 with Cardenas voting no. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is, at the State of the City address, and also I've talked to council here about the 3 initiatives that I felt were important for the city to complete this coming year. And one of those initiatives has to do with developing a better relationship and a cultural, social, economic relationship with our neighbors and brothers in Mexicali. And the letter that you have in front of you is the first step towards incorporating a relationship with the city of Mexicali. I'm going to change the wording of the letter so that it's not a sister city. There's some implications when you call that relationship a sister city relationship, so we're not going to do that. But our communities rely on Mexicali shoppers. Our mall relies on Mexicali shoppers. We as a city, the revenue that comes in is dependent on the Mexicali shopper, and I think it's incumbent for this council to have a better working relationship with them. So I'd like to request approval of the letter that was submitted to the council for review with a intent to enter into a partnership with the city of Mexicali. And so, second, moved by Jackson.
To the motion, Mr. Mayor. Did
Yes.
you get a second?
Yes, I do. Second by Walker. Please ballot.
To the motion. May I
Yes.
speak to the motion?
I'm sorry. Can you
Yes.
cancel that? Can you cancel?
I wanted to speak to the motion. I wanted to make sure I understood, you're using the name partnership rather than sister city. Okay.
All right.
Just wanted to make sure.
Okay, so let's go ahead and
No ballot?
open it up again, Ms. Caldwell. Moved by Jackson, second by Cardenas. Please ballot. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Wells. Okay. Okay, very well. Thank you very much.
Oh, did Alex have anything else?
Mayor?
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry, but there were 2 resolutions
Yes.
that needed. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and adjourn the city council meeting and re-adjourn as the finance authority. So it's the same,
So I'm abstaining
You're still abstaining.
as that.
it's still the same action that was presented earlier. Same discussion, same action. Ms. Becker, do I need to reopen the public hearing for the purposes of the record?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing on public that wishes to speak on this matter, please. Mr. Gibbs?
Yes, and just for the sake of time, all of the same objections from before are duly noted. I would strongly encourage this council to delay until there's further input and an impact study done on the Planned Parenthood transfer agreement.
Thank you very much. Okay, any additional comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Is there desire from the council to approve, to move on the resolution FA 15?
-1.
15?
-1.
Or 1, resolution of the governing board of the El Centro Finance Authority authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $25 million aggregate principal amount of its hospital revenue refunding bonds, El Centro Regional Medical Center Project, Series 215A, and not to exceed $25 million aggregate principal amount of its hospital revenue refunding bonds, El Centro Regional Medical Center Project, Series 2015B, approving a trust agreement, an installment purchase agreement with authorizing the taking of certain actions in connection therewith. Is there a motion from the Finance Authority to that effect?
Move approval.
Okay.
Second.
I don't see this here.
Are we doing it on the?
Mayor Silva, we'll be voting by hand or by voice.
Okay. You want to take roll call, Mrs. Caldwell?
Sanders?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Silva?
Yes.
Walker?
Abstain.
Cardenas?
No.
Thank you for that. We're going to come back now as the El Centro City Council. And what did I oh, here
Motion
you go.
carries.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay,
3-1.
I'm sorry,
3-1.
3 yes, Cardenas no, and Walker abstaining. This is time for public comments. The City Council welcomes your input at this time. Members of the public may address the City Council on any matter not listed on the posted agenda. Pursuant to the Brown Act, no action will be taken on any issue brought forth under public comments. We ask that you please complete the speaker slip and submit it to the city clerk prior to the start of the meeting. Although you are not required to identify yourself, this information on the speaker slip assists the mayor that all persons wishing to address the council are recognized and also assists the city clerk in preparing the city council meeting minutes. Unless the mayor extends the time, there is a 3-minute time limit for each public presentation. Any information provided at the speaker slip is voluntary and will be a public record. Before we do that, again, I want to remind, and based on what I just read, the public that there is and there was no action item on the council agenda related to the issue of Planned Parenthood or the transfer agreement. All the action items of the council have been already addressed and completed for today. We also have asked our city attorney to read a statement of facts and procedures that have taken place so that we put those on the record and also the public is able to understand some of the action that has taken place. So, Ms. Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the city's municipal code provides that effective January 2nd, 1986, the City Council delegated governance authority for El Centro Regional Medical Center to a separate board of trustees. That board makes and enforces all regulations for the administration, protection, and maintenance of the hospital and hospital property. And that board has the authority to appoint and prescribe the duties and the powers of the CEO, the secretary, and other officers and employees of the hospital. There's currently nothing in the city code that provides for termination of a trustee's appointment midterm, and there's nothing in the city code that provides for an appeal of action taken by hospital staff to the city council. And I'd also like to clarify some of the actions, some of the issues related to the execution of the transfer agreement. The hospital's standard practice is for management to sign a transfer agreement if the hospital provides the services that would be necessary to treat a patient who is seen at the clinic seeking the transfer agreement. It is the hospital's past practice to do this, and I believe the hospital has executed over 20 transfer agreements with local clinics. Hospital management determined that the services that would be necessary to treat a patient who was seen at Planned Parenthood, which is OBGYN services, could be provided by the hospital and was inclined to execute the agreement. The transfer agreement was placed on the hospital's January 27th, 2015 agenda as an informational item only, requiring no action by the board. Subsequent to the January meeting, The hospital was flooded with communications regarding this subject, and concerns arose regarding the hospital's significant exposure to litigation. Accordingly, at the February 24th, 2015 meeting, the board met in a properly noticed closed session at the advice of its counsel to discuss the significant exposure to litigation. And a report, which included a legal recommendation, was given to the board. The board discussed the report and the legal recommendation with staff, but no action was taken with respect to either. Recognizing that the execution of the transfer agreement is one of significant local interest to the community, the hospital, in its report from closed session that is made in open session, sought to provide as much disclosure about the responses of each board member to the report and the legal recommendation as possible without violating the confidentiality provisions of the Brown Act. Accordingly, the open session minutes from the February 24th meeting will reflect that 3 trustees accepted the legal recommendation, 3 trustees rejected the legal recommendation, and 1 trustee took no position on the legal opinion. And as a result, no direction was given to hospital staff. The minutes will also reflect that the hospital management, which was inclined to execute the transfer agreement with Planned Parenthood prior to receiving the legal recommendation, will proceed to sign it, and it has been executed. At neither meeting did the board take any action on the execution of the transfer agreement with Planned Parenthood.
Thank you, Ms. Becker, for that. Also, right at the beginning of the meeting, our city attorney reported the action taken by the council in closed session, and even though for the sake that people understand what the direction of this council is, I'm going to ask Ms. Becker to repeat the action that was taken by the council in closed session, and perhaps Ms. Walker can expand on the desires of this council.
A report was given to council on the anticipated litigation, significant exposure to agency item. There was a motion by Councilmember Cardenas, second by Councilmember Jackson to give direction to staff, but the motion failed for lack of a second when Councilmember Jackson withdrew his second after discussion of the motion was completed. On a motion by Councilmember Jackson, second by Councilmember Villegas Walker, direction was given to staff to conduct an independent legal evaluation of the duties and authorities of the City Council and the Board of Trustees relating to the transfer agreement. The motion passed with 3 yes votes by Councilmembers Silva, Jackson, and Walker, a no vote by Councilmember Cardenas, and an abstention by Councilmember Sanders.
Ms. Becker, I believe the no vote on my part was inaccurate. I did vote yes on the second motion, that I would be in support of pursuing.
I'm just going to caution you to be careful as to any disclosure coming out of closed session other than to clarify with regard to your vote.
My vote was a vote for yes in regards to the second motion, Ms. Becker.
Okay. Thank you for that, Mr. Cardenas.
So to clarify, that was the action that the council took at 5:30 this afternoon. We met in closed session at 5:30, took the action immediately before this meeting. So there is still to come direction that the council has requested go forward. So I want to leave that with you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker, for that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and begin the public comments, and there's a lot of people that wish to speak. I'm going to follow the list that was provided to me by someone, don't know whom, so this is the order that I will follow. You do have 3 minutes. Although I'm going to have a lot of leeway and flexibility there, but I ask you, because there's a lot of people that wish to speak, that you just be a little cognizant of time. Okay. Mr. Wallace is first speaker.
Colas.
I'm sorry, Colas. I'm sorry for that, Mr. Colas.
My name's Walter Colas, and I pastor Christ Community Church here in El Centro. And first of all, I just want to express my appreciation to each and every council member. You guys are in leadership positions, and who's given much there's much required. And I know the responsibility that each one of you have. I also have enjoyed a friendly relationship with our city through the years. I've had conversations with you. Mayor Silva, you were at our groundbreaking ceremony on the new church, and I appreciate that. Cheryl Walker, you were at our office not long ago presenting us a plaque of appreciation. The El Centro Regional Hospital last Tuesday signed a transfer agreement with Planned Parenthood, allowing them to move forward in opening an abortion clinic. And this was not an act of advancement in our community. It was an act of betrayal. It was an act of betrayal. It was an act of betrayal to our community, because our community, the last time they voted on a pro-life issue, was over 70%. And the majority of the community is not in favor of an abortion clinic. Now, let me clarify something. We're not opposed to Planned Parenthood doing their teaching, providing health services for women, but we are opposed to the abortion. And it was an act of betrayal to every woman that would go into that clinic for an abortion. As a pastor, I have done much counseling in the past through the years. I've been pastoring now 17 years, been in ministry for over 20 years. Started out in the drug and alcohol ministry, and I've counseled many women who have had abortions in the past and who are dealing with psychological and physical problems as a result of it. So it was not an act of advancement, it was an act of betrayal for those women that would go in for an abortion. It was also an act of betrayal for every unborn baby in the womb. That they have a heartbeat. They have a brainwave like you and I. They have hands and feet like you and I. And to say that a woman's choice trumps life is absolutely ludicrous to me and against all logic. Our public officials should be protecting the weak and the defenseless in our community, and there's nothing weaker and more defenseless than an unborn child in the womb. The last thing I want to say is this was an act of betrayal to Christ, Sedalia.
May I interrupt, please?
Sedalia.
Mr. Collis, I really would like to personal attacks or personal comments on individual council members. We minimize.
That's not a personal attack. She is a liaison between the city council and the hospital. You guys, okay, I'll withdraw that. You guys opened in prayer by reading scripture. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespassed against us. Say the entire portion, Walter. Please.
Okay, please. Please.
We can have somebody removed.
No, hey.
We're going to ask you to leave.
Please. Yes, please, sir. One more outburst and we'll ask you to be escorted out, please.
But Price.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may respond to that.
You can respond, Sedalia. If you want to get in a theological debate, I'm all for it.
No.
I don't think that this is the appropriate venue, but I'd have to come to the church if you so would allow.
Okay,
But what I wanted to respond to is, the Lord said, since you opened that door, to sin is human and to forgive is divine.
Absolutely.
So if you feel that I have betrayed my trust that you had invested in me, then I am sorry. But I also know that when Christ met the woman and the men had drugged her and said, why had she sinned and what had she done? And the things that she had done, she could not have done alone. They had accused her of being a prostitute. When he knelt down and wrote something in the ground, he said,
Shut your mouth out there,
Sir, sir,
I would like to caution everybody tonight, if you would just be quiet and allow a civil conversation to take place, please. My sister, Sedalia, is speaking. I do not want any interruptions. It is totally disrespectful.
Thank you, Mr. Carlos.
thank you. When he did that, and he said, he who is out sin cast the first stone.
Right,
And her accusers went away.
right. And what did he say after that?
Go and sin no more.
Go and sin no more.
Go and sin no more. So it is, I don't have a heaven or a hell, Walter, to put anybody.
Can you tell me, Sedalia, can you tell me, do you believe that the baby in the womb is a life?
I can tell
Personally.
you, I can tell you when the time comes for you to finish speaking and the mayor opens it up for mayors and council members' report.
Yes.
I will share that with you.
Okay.
Or whomever else is left.
Okay,
in the
let me just say this. We will carry on that conversation, but when the city council opens in prayer, and last week, Sedalia, you called down the Holy Spirit. The last meeting, you said, Holy Spirit, come down. John the Baptist was in the womb, and the Bible says he was filled with the Holy Spirit and he jumped in the womb. It is an absolute, it isn't, no, be quiet, please. It is an absolute contradiction and an act of hypocrisy to call for God's presence in a meeting and then to snuff out life. That does not jive with God. God expects our hearts to be totally sold out to Him. If we're going to call on the presence of God and ask for His wisdom, obedience has to follow that through His Word. Now, if you're going to open in prayer, then you should vote according to the things of God. All I am saying to the City Council tonight, when's the last time you've seen this many people show up at a meeting?
It's been some time.
Okay. It's been some time. That's because this is a most important and crucial issue to our community. I am a leader in our community. I deal with all walks of life, and you guys are leaders in the community. I am hearing things, Sedalia, like they're going to boycott the hospital. Now, the city council they are the authority over the hospital because it is a city-owned hospital. In 1986, whatever was done to pass authority to the board, you guys can reverse that. You guys made the movement to pass authority to them. You can override this thing. You are the ultimate authority. There are people out here that are going to vote in November, and they will vote exactly what you're hearing tonight. They are going to stand for life. We do not want this in our community. And I'm going to say one more thing. I said this to you, Mayor Silva. The mall did not build out by Target. They didn't build out by Lowe's. They built out off Dogwood because they were trying to get Mexicali business. That abortion clinic that is going in is so tragic because that's what they're shooting for. Abortion is illegal in Mexicali, and it's going to take abortions from Mexicali to support that. And to think that botched abortions would end up in our hospital and expect the taxpayers to pay that, to carry that burden is totally, totally unthinkable. And I just want to address you tonight and say, as a leader in the community, you guys need to do what's right in this thing. There are a lot of people that are very upset that an abortion clinic is going in El Centro.
Thank you, Mr. Carlos. My note just says Father Ed.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Father Edward Horning, a Catholic priest. I've been a priest here in El Centro for over 10 years, and I'm a volunteer chaplain at El Centro Regional Hospital. I don't speak for the hospital, but I've been there thousands of times. The American Psychiatric Association produces a manual to help counselors the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. And then the 1987 one, it's known as the DSM-3R, classified abortion was a life event that can produce post-traumatic stress disorder. And it was removed from subsequent manuals, the DSM-4-TR and the DSM-5. But I can assure you that I have counseled at least over 200 women who have experienced post-reproductive grief and loss, recurring nightmares, depression, suicidal thoughts, low self-esteem, seeking solace in addiction, alcohol, drugs, staying in physical and emotional abuse, and all of them have deep grief and regret. I'm part of a retreat movement for women who have gone through abortion. It's called Rachel's Hope. I have helped over 50 women in that, and there's also a men's outreach, which we'll be soon to be doing at Centinela. At my last visit at Centinela, I met with 20 men who did not stand up for their children, and they regret that. I know sometimes people think this is a religious argument, but I'm here to let you know that it's our belief in science, that life begins at womb with all the chromosomes that are necessary, human life. Our country has made mistakes in the past, allowed for slavery and discrimination, and abortion is one of those mistakes. And I know that like slavery and discrimination against women to vote, that it will change, and I'm hoping that it can change here by, if you can, to intervene to not allow abortions to be done here in El Centro. I met with a young woman, one young woman who wanted to have an abortion last summer. She was intent on it. We talked to her, we met with her, gave her flowers. She couldn't afford the abortion, and she needed a ride to get the abortion. Time kept coming, and we stayed with her. She was dead set, months, days, and through a turn of events, she chose life. We have a number of people who are willing to adopt, and she decided to keep her baby. Baby Oz was born just a couple of days ago, and we thank God for that. And if Planned Parenthood was open here, I don't think her son would have survived. So in this country where we seek life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the great majority of the people here are inviting you, city council members, mayor, to do the right thing, That's choose life and not to allow the war and scourge of abortion in our city and valley. I know I speak not only for people in El Centro, but people in Mexicali know about this, and they've encouraged me, Father, do something, please. So thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Father Ray. Alicia Lucio, please.
Hello, good evening. My name is Alicia Lucio, and I'm a marriage and family therapist intern. I work with Rachel's Hope, the organization that Father Ed was talking about. And abortion hurts women, plain and simple. It really does. I know because I am post-abortive, and I suffered the consequences for many years. And not until I got healing did I know what was wrong with me. So let me read what I wrote. Women facing unplanned pregnancies fall prey to Planned Parenthood's rhetoric every day. It's a simple procedure, it's just tissue, and the biggest lie of all, in a few days you'll be back to normal. No procedure is simple that denies life. The tissue they speak of is a human being, a life that began at conception. As far as going back to normal after the abortion, there is no normal. There is shame, regret, self-hatred, self-loathing, inconsolable grief. The feelings might not surface for a week. Honestly, it's a sense of relief when it happens, but they come. It comes a month or years down the road, but trust me, they will, and they create an aching void in the soul. We feel unworthy of love, especially from God, and are incapable of experiencing pure joy, and hope is non-existent. But I'm here to tell you that not all hope is lost. Post-abortive women can once again experience joy and feel the love and compassion of a merciful God. There is hope, most importantly, forgiveness. We at Rachel's Hope have all experienced the emotional, physical, and spiritual consequences of abortion. We have been called to facilitate a program of healing through fellowship, prayer, meditation, and a variety of exercises designed to put together the pieces of broken hearts and fill each soul with serenity. I just met this past weekend leading a post-abortive retreat for women. Much healing took place. Women were spiritually reunited with their babies in heaven. And statistics prove that once a woman has received healing through organizations like Rachel's Hope, they never have another abortion again. So if Planned Parenthood is approved, it will be my duty to lead Rachel's Hope retreats and make sure that the El Centro Clinic is empty. Because we will, one by one, lead women to healing.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Marty Ellett, please.
Council members, my name is Marty Ellett, and I work at the El Centro Regional Medical Center in the emergency room. I'm just going to continue my little demonstration of this 12-week-old baby that we have here. This is a first trimester child. By the way, if you do the math in the Bible, John the Baptist was several weeks younger than this. When he leaped for, it wasn't a hiccup, it wasn't a cough, he leaped, the Bible says, for joy in his mother's womb. He was about half this size. That's incredible. So this little baby is 12 weeks old, and that is the first trimester. That is when the abortions are going to take place at this size, at this stage, in our abortion clinic on 4th Street by Planned Parenthood. It's going to be these abortions are going to be done, keep this in mind, by not doctors, but nurse practitioners, certified nurse midwives, and physician assistants that have zero experience at this. That is what the Help Wanted ad says. No experience necessary. So as I said last time, this little baby, this is about 84 days. This is 12 weeks, 84 days. At 20 days, there's a heartbeat. At 40 days, there's brain waves. Everything is here complete on board and just needs time to grow. So as a woman comes in for an abortion, what I neglected to say last time is first their cervix needs to be dilated by dilators. And this is when I watched one video, one abortionist said this is the most likely time that a woman's uterus is going to be perforated. Then the suction catheter is inserted, and turned out very strong since there's no much calcium deposited in the bones and the ligaments are very soft. This child will be dismembered, limb from limb, by a suction catheter. And if the suction catheter then perforates the woman's womb, the uterus, behind that is bowel. If you nick the bowel, you are going to have a serious, potentially deadly infection ensuing, and you don't even know it until you're sick. I will never forget the last words of a woman not long ago that I worked on in the emergency room that had a similar, simple OBGYN procedure about 10 days before she came to us for follow-up treatment. It was too late. We did everything we could to save her. It was too late. She died. So what I'm saying is it's very risky. So after that, a good abortionist will, after he's dismembered this little child, they take forceps that are, this very long forceps and able to crush the head, pull out the skull. And then once the abortionist is done, he has to get everything out of there. There's going to be bleeding or infection will ensue. And once abortion is done, a good abortionist will open up the vacuum container, pull all these contents out on a towel, and reassemble this baby on a towel to make sure that he's got all the parts. Because if you don't, there's going to be trouble with this follow-up with this woman. So then, here's the point. Planned Parenthood doesn't have, to my knowledge, have a disposal plan. What are they going to do with all these baby parts? If there's no disposal plan, they'll take these babies and throw them down the sink and run them in a disposal into our sewer. How dishonoring are we going to be to our own, to humankind? If they don't want to do that, they can, without a disposal plan, they can throw them in a garbage bag, tie it up, throw it in the trash. It ends up in our county dump. How dishonoring is that? I mean, this is incredible how we treat the human race. The other option is that everyone, Planned Parenthood knows this very well, is that fetal parts are very lucrative on the black market, and cosmetic companies buy fetal parts all the time. So those are the options right there. What I want to say is no one argues, no one with any sense at all argues that this is a human being. This is a Homo sapien, a human being. The question is, this is not recognized as a person. It's just part of the mom. It's the mom's property. I want to remind you that was a Supreme Court decision. Unelected officials, 9 people decided that back in '73. The Dred Scott decision said that Mr. Dred Scott, a black man, before the Supreme Court, no one could deny that he was a human being, a Homo sapien. No one could deny that he was a human, but they denied that he was a person. He was simply property. The Supreme Court said that. My point is, just because the Supreme Court says something, it doesn't make it true. Thank you.
Brenda Scaroni, please.
Good evening. First of all, like many of you, I was born at El Centro Community Hospital. My husband was born at El Centro Community Hospital. Both of our sons were born at El Centro Community Hospital. My brother was born at El Centro Community Hospital. Like you, we have a lot of heritage there. I had the privilege of working on the remodeling project of the maternity ward and raising money to get that job done. And we have a lot at stake there. I'm going to tell you a little story about a toothpick that I hope will kind of put this into practical terms for some of my concerns anyway. I have a dear family friend, a dear family member actually, who was walking across this carpet, stepped on a toothpick, got a little bit stuck in his heel, went to the ER at your hospital, at our hospital. The technicians used the wrong machine to look and see what was left in there. They pulled out a little bit, but did not see the rest of it. This person developed a massive infection, nearly had they were going to amputate his leg. Instead, they were able to only have to cut the bottom of his heel off. He was moved upstairs after surgery. His attending physician gave the staff his medicine orders. He, sometime later, developed pneumonia symptoms, and it got progressively worse, progressively worse, progressively worse. The family was very concerned. We thought this might be the end for our beloved person. His daughter happened to walk in time to see him actually catching what was probably going to be his last breath, she thought. She screamed, a crash cart came in. He was, resuscitated. Come to find out, the staff did not input the verbal orders from the doctor into the computer, and he was not receiving his Lasix. He developed fluid on the lungs. He developed congestive heart failure because he was mistreated at our hospital. This person, I don't know if you know his name or not. His name is Eli Leon. He is Dr. Eli Leon. He worked at that hospital for 44 years as an OBGYN. He delivered 11,000 babies at El Centro Community Hospital. 11,000 babies, a third of the population of El Centro. 1/3 of the population of El Centro. You might have thought that possibly someone from the hospital would have possibly come to visit or acknowledged at least that he was there. The marketing director was talked to by his daughter Linda, but did anything happen with that? No, nothing happened. So Thanksgiving, Eli spent in the hospital. He is still recovering. He was going to come tonight and give you a passion plea to stop this nonsense. He and his beautiful wife, Eileen, are the parents of 2 daughters, one of whom is my sister-in-law, the mother of my 2 nephews. They themselves were unable to have children. They had 8 pregnancies, 8 miscarriages, and finally adopted 2 children. They know the preciousness of life. Dr. Leon is a passionate believer in life because he has seen it from start to finish. He has fought to keep babies alive from start to finish. He has cared for women at all aspects of their health, and he has cared for babies as they were growing in their mother's womb from day one. He attended to me when I had pre-labor and was put on bed rest for 2 months. I got chewed out regularly, but that's okay. I have a healthy son because of it. Dr. Leon is appalled at what is going on here, and he wants you to know it. He's appalled. He doesn't care that, you're lucky he's not a suing man because you would be sued. But he is appalled at what you have done. You have betrayed this community. You have betrayed life. And he wants you to know that he is expecting you to withdraw this transfer, get rid of Planned Parenthood. The abortion clinic is not needed here. Send it packing another place, because this community is about a culture of life, not a culture of death. That Planned Parenthood clinic is going to be, as you know, right on the corridor where we have drug dealers coming through, where we have sex traffickers coming through. So what's it going to look like when a little 12-year-old girl is dropped off by her pimp for an abortion? What are you going to do when that abortion goes wrong, that little girl's uterus is perforated, her pimp gets scared, dumps her, leaves her there, you have a little girl whose life is in danger, who is taken to the hospital with no one to watch over her to make sure that she's cared for, and you end up with a dead little girl in your care because you allowed this thing to happen. This is on you, and I don't care how hard you try to hide behind your trustees at the hospital. This is your job. This is your responsibility. You were elected. You were elected to run this hospital. Now quit acting like cowards and do the job you were elected to do. Now, we expect you to withdraw this transfer, and we expect you to do it at the next scheduled meeting. And we're not taking no for an answer. One more thought. If you guys can't even manage what you have now at the hospital, how on earth do you think you're going to take on Planned Parenthood and succeed with that?
Pastor Nunn, please.
All right, good evening again. I'd like to point out, maybe cut the tension in the air a little bit, some good news. You guys ready for some good news? Well, first off, the Lord is going to return for us all one day. That's pretty good news. But secondly, I've got another bit of good news, and we have a petition over here that has been signed by 2,651 concerned citizens. And that petition has been signed by Christians and Catholics and Mormons, all coming together in our community to work together because we're that passionate about this. And so I think that is amazing. And I just want to thank everybody across denominational lines, no matter the religion, for coming together for life. Now, tonight I stand before you and I respectfully request you to take action in 3 areas of concern. First of all, in light of the fact that there was no clear direction given by the ECRMC Board of Trustees, it was a 3-3 tie, which in my book is the same as no vote. So because there was no clear direction given, I'm asking you to step in and to provide the leadership and the direction that is needed during a time like this in our community. It's a fact that this Board of Trustees was appointed at the discretion of this council, and we respect that. But because they were unable to provide the leadership necessary to navigate this, and it was defaulted once again to a hired interim employee, that just seems like it's not right. It seems like it's not even right to ask this man to have that burden placed upon his shoulders when we've elected you, the good council members of our city, of our community, to step forward and to take the leadership reins when difficult situations like this arise. So I'm asking you to step forward and to come in and to intervene on behalf of the 40,000 residents that will all be impacted equally, no matter how that looks, whether they're on this side of the line or this side of the aisle, in agreement with abortion, or on this side against it. Everyone will be impacted the same, medically in our community, financially in our community. And so I'm asking you, please, step forward and do the right thing and provide the necessary direction and leadership. Secondly, in light of the fact that this is such a sensitive and controversial issue in our community, I'm asking you that you change the protocol and the procedures by which these agreements are approved. I do not think that it is prudent, I do not think that it is right, and I do not think it should continue for a hospital hired staff employee to make a decision that really affects us all. So there needs to be a change in protocol. And if I'm speaking to the wrong board here, if I need to ask for you to remove your hat for a moment and put back on that financial advisory board hat because that board can make a decision, then I'll do that. But obviously you have some oversight over this hospital, and so I'm imploring you, please step in and change this procedure. I think if you will do this, it will mitigate the public displeasure in the future. Also, it will mitigate risk. It'll mitigate the threat of a lawsuit if this council is the one who is responsible for signing an agreement that has such a huge impact across our community. Finally, I want to challenge you to a point of action tonight. I want to challenge you, and I believe that you are men and women of character who can do this. If the good people of this council choose to hide behind protocol and procedure and fail to act tonight, babies will begin to lose their lives. The financial stability of our hospital, along with the medical safety of our young women, will be put at risk. And failure to act tonight means that babies will die. This agreement has already been signed. If you do not act, babies will begin to lose their lives. Abortions will begin while on your watch. Are you prepared to look the first mother who loses their little girl because she went on unbeknownst to her to have an abortion, are you prepared to look her in the eye and to say, I could have done something, but I didn't? Are you prepared to look that woman who has a perforated uterus, who bleeds all over the place, and who comes back later hoping that she can have a child, only to hear from her doctor that you'll never have babies because of a choice you made in your past? Are you ready to look that woman in the eye? Because you're going to have to say, that happened on my watch. Are you prepared to look into the eyes of the women in this community who will suffer from addiction and abuse, and who will think they have deserved it, who will be riddled with guilt and regret because of one choice they made so long ago, when you could have stopped it, when you could have acted tonight? You see, you'll have to look all of these women in the eyes, but I want to tell you tonight that we too are watching you. We're watching to see how you'll act. We're watching to see how you will respond. And we are not an ignorant community. And we will see how you vote and how you act and what your movements are. And we will hold you accountable the only place we can, which is at the ballot box. So we do expect an answer from you tonight. And we will wait till the meeting is concluded so that you can look every single one of us in the eye as you leave. And you need to know that every time you're out to dinner or shopping in the grocery stores, you will have to look every single one of us in the eye and explain to us why you didn't listen to the heart of your community. So you have a decision that you have to make tonight. And you can decide tonight whether or not you leave this council chamber with your head held high, or if you leave with your head hanging in shame. You see, this agreement has a 30-day revocation clause in it. It can be terminated with 30 days written notice at any time. So this issue is not going away in our community. And as long as we know that that 30-day termination clause is there, we will continue to come, and we will continue to speak, and we will continue to take whatever actions we can in the community in order to save precious lives. So please, tonight, my plea to you is that you give direction. I understand you can't vote tonight. I'm not asking you to do anything illegal. But I do know that you can give direction stating that we need to reconvene next meeting 2 weeks from now, and we need to make a decision, because these people, the good people of El Centro, are watching hopefully, believing that you'll do the right thing. Thank you.